Final VOD review of the night. It is a really meaningful game for some people and not for others, but for me, a really meaningful game between Damwon Gaming and JDG. This is the game that Korea wins to secure their first international tournament since Worlds 2017, but actually it ends up being a lot more than that because of who did the winning. For now, we'll focus on it's a bit of scene setting. JD Gaming is a team that I think is really unknown to Western fans, apart from people who followed kind of Caps's really outside prediction of JD Gaming winning LPL Spring 2019. They made the final, but they got ultra smashed, and there was some fortunate results in the gauntlet that kind of helped their case, but also some great clutching from JD Gaming. A little thing I want to show you, and especially if you watch the previous VOD review where we saw that Invictus Gaming's combined kills per minute was over 1, even in summer season. If you look at JDG and add their kills per game and deaths per game together, you get 24.3. That's 11.7 plus 12.6. So for there to be champion kills per minute of 1, their games would have to be 24 minutes, and 20 seconds long. Instead, their games are 33. So actually, JDG was already a team that played a bit more LPL style. So think of that number, 24.3 in 33 minutes. You look at Damwon, same average game time. Almost the same amount of combined kills per game and deaths per game. And Damwon don't play an explosive early game style most of the time. They play around one solo laner getting ahead and the jungler camping that lane. So actually, JDG and Damwon are pretty well, well equated. They are very one-to-one in terms of the styles that they play. They don't have an explosive gold difference in the early game. Neither does Damwon Gaming. So this actually ended up being a pretty even matchup on paper. Here is the lineup. A lot of the advantages that are gotten on JDG are through Lumao, their support. Their bot lane is really what they set up for around, and they're really big on playing range support. So you'll see Yuumi, 2-0, Fiddlesticks, he's the most famous champion, 1-1, Lux, 1-0. They are when in doubt, they try to dominate bot lane, and from there, that's how they find their wins. Imp and Lumao getting ahead, and their macro is very standard but pretty strong macro from ahead, but from behind they can actually fall apart a bit, and probably their biggest issue as a team is that Yagao champion pool is very limited. Like, he was a Zoe one. If you look at his champion pool in terms of amount of champions played, I don't want to click on Zoe, I want to click on Yagao. Like, effective champion pool, he kind of reminds me of Crown a little bit, who was always criticized for only playing a few champions. Like, his Silas is gone, Karma and Rai's gone. His big champion in spring was Azir and Zoe. Like, those are his two picks. Zoe is his biggest pick, Syndra as well, but you kind of look at him and the effective champion pool is a lot of Zoe, Lissandra. You kind of know what you're getting with Yagao. And if he's on the Zoe, you're getting good stuff. His LeBlanc was pretty decent at points, but I think he's had some champion pool issues. So this was likely to be a very tough tournament for him to find a lot of advantages. Zoom can be a lot of things. His GP obviously is the most famous pick, but he can also just play tank frontline. And when JDG found their victory in this tournament, it was from Zoom playing Sai on top and then just having a huge Kaisa, I believe, just run it down in this particular game. Meanwhile, Damwon, we've already highlighted them last week. They are a very solo lane focused team that any extra gold onto nuclear doesn't necessarily work for them. They need the gold on Nuguri or Showmaker, and they get their leads from really mechanically talented players setting up 1-3-1s or 4-1s that can't be answered. And also occasionally some very clutch team fighting. Never forget Showmaker's unbelievable Akali game against Kingzone in game number 3. So that made this a really tantalizing game. Griffin had just lost to FBX. Damwon Gaming are playing their first ever international tournament. None of these players have ever played internationally before, I don't believe. No. So Nuclear has played in Europe. He was obviously playing on H2K, but I don't believe any of these players have played an international tournament. I wasn't sure because I Am Katowice had Kongdu Monster and Rocks Tigers, but Nuclear wasn't on that. I was thinking it was Seoul. So no international experience. A team that came in super hot. They're 6-0 in terms of series and 2 best-of-1 victories before this game. But Damwon Gaming being the team to bring home the title for JDG is such a crazy thing. They clutched over Sandbox Gaming in the wildcard match of 2019 spring, and that's how they qualified for this tournament. And then they were pretty comprehensively beaten by Kingzone in the next match. But let's zoom forward. Pick ban happens. So, Nico blue side ban, which is what we also saw from Kingzone in our first series. Renekton ban, that's a champion best piloted and not really a strong first pick, but a strong first round, so banned away. And then Karma ban, understandable. Bans on the side of JDG, Nautilus, Tom Kench, Vlad. So this really pushes up the priority of a pick like Yuumi. Because the Yuumi answers is only Lux that's left open. Now, that doesn't mean it has to be first pick, because if you first pick Yuumi, Lux can be taken here. But Nautilus is seen as the second answer to Yuumi to make her accountable after the nerfs to Yuumi on patch, I believe, 9.12. Change the title. I can do that. I'm happy to change the title. So I will digress for a second. Damwon Gaming versus JD Gaming. Title updated. Important little note here. Damwon Gaming didn't have side selection for this game. It's the first time that... It's the second time this day that JDG and the LPL have chosen red sides. So that's a red side call from them. And a blue side. Damwon is forced onto blue side here, so they didn't have side selection for this game. But Damwon Gaming very frequently will just first pick for Nuguri, or first pick a flex pick that Nuguri often takes, but Showmaker can take. So if you look at the lineup here, of the top laners, and we know that Jace ends up being taken, of the first picks, I would have expected, say, a bot laner, like maybe something like the Yuumi for Beryl, but they don't really play a bot lane style. So if another Korean team takes a bot laner here, probably not Damwon Gaming. So then you think of, okay, what solo lane flex picks are available? Akali doesn't need to be first pick. You're not thinking Gragas Yasuo is going to come out here. First picking Canyon's jungler doesn't work for this team. So at the end of the day, a flex pick that Nuguri can take is common. Vladimir would probably have been the selection, but it was the first ban coming out from the side of JDG. And so Jace ends up being taken. It's a quirk of their style, because when we get to this pick and ban, I want to talk about how Damwon Gaming differed from the style of the other Korean teams at this tournament a little bit. Specifically, Kingzone and SKT. So first pick comes in. It's going to be the Jace. And then Zoom does what he did in the previous days. He goes Sion, and you know this game is going to be about getting Imp and Lamau an advantage. Because if you're going... Your most reliable carry player is Zoom. Like, he does play tanks, but he can be a great carry. The moment he locks in Sion, you go Sion Jarvan, you're going teamfight comp, and it's... Let's spend all of our time playing bot side to counter gank. And Damwon Gaming just take first round into the Karthus. So they're just taking Karthus, seeing Sion and Jarvan. Now, they will have priority around the Jace lane if it does end up being Jace versus Sion. But it's a very early Karthus for Canyon, whose Karthus hadn't been super impressive in the LCK. I would say he's from the school of thought of a more aggressive Karthus, like he did like to get in there and brawl, compared to other Karthuses. Imp drinking on stage. What's Imp drinking? Let's find out. I missed Imp. That's almost certainly going to be corn silk tea. I very much doubt that's a frothy, but I guess I don't know. So Karthus double solo laners. This is so Damwon Gaming. They're blind picking both their solo laners. They can flex them between the two. Showmaker and Nuguri have the most overlap in the LCK of champ pool, other than... the other team that would have the most overlap would definitely be Sandbox Gaming, as Summit and Dove play almost exactly 100% the same champions. But these two can swap around, and we'll see that they prefer the Camille matchup into Sion. I believe that at some point, Khan said that playing Jace into Sion was like, what did he say? He said something really, really like over the top. It was on King Zone. He said something like it was like coughing up blood or something. Like he really hated laning that lane. So it wasn't an ultra surprise that Camille went into Sion, but it is a priority winning matchup for Sion early. And they can go the Yuumi, but they just choose to ban it and get an advantage in the 2v2. And that's the kind of changing in the guard we expected. In this game, with these teams, what did we say? JEG wins through bot side getting ahead. Damwon Gaming wins through getting a solo lane ahead. You kind of knew there would be differing focuses. And this is saying that top side of potatoes, let's win bot lane, taking Lux and banning away Yuumi. Meanwhile, Damwon Gaming are playing top side. So I love that we got to see both teams play their style. Both teams playing towards their the natural way they play. Zyra Khan banned, Yuumi lanes banned. You were kind of out of lane dominance here because you can't play Ezreal Tahm Kench. A, because Nuclear is not a super assertive, super aggressive Ezreal player, and B, because Tahm Kench was banned. But also, it just doesn't fit the duo from Damwon Gaming. So there's not really any way for them to play lane dominant, and I had no idea which way they would go in the draft here. To make this draft work, you want more engage because Karthus doesn't provide engage, and you don't want Camille suicide into the backline. Nuclear has defaulted to Kai'Sa a lot, but we've seen almost no Alistair in LCK Summer. Like, it's a pick that died about the first round robin of Spring, and so blind picking a lane that can be easily counterpicked by the part of your map that's most likely to be the enemy win condition was super bold. They could have taken Sivir Alistair to try to deny Sivir. Instead, they take Kai'Sa Alistair and say, all right, worst comes to worst, if you're picking Sivir Lux, which is that god tier duo lane in the LCK, you're picking it into Alistair. And many EU, NA, AD carries, whenever I go to international events, they always say to me, I would never pick Sivir into Alistair because it's a lane counter pick. It's too hard. So, this is the final draft. Top side priority versus bot side priority. You expect to see Flawless camping bot side. Meanwhile, you expect to see Karthus largely farming, but playing a top side game, but also for all the marbles. With a team that has only ever played one best of 5 in the LCK, lost it 3-0. With a team that has no international pedigree, who has no true shot caller. I imagine Nuclear has a pretty decent voice on the team. But just like Griffin, Damwon Gaming comes in kind of understandably. You know, you just assume they would be nervous here. If it was Spring Damwon Gaming, their macro is pretty poor, all things considered. And this happens when Nuclear just dies at level 1, and you're very worried about that. We're going to get the replay of it for more context, but it basically forces vertical jungling, unlike the previous Karthus game where Invictus Gaming invade. But, so don't invade. They have a very big winning top side of the map, but don't invade and get aggressive vision on the Karthus. To JG's credit, they do get a lot of aggressive vision on the Karthus, which is good to see. It means that the full red side clear into top side clear would be easily counter jungled by Flawless. So while JG can't return to this invade, they do exit with First Blood. I'm going to answer a question from chat asking why didn't JG pick Kate Lux? I had a lot of chats with Cloud Templar and other Korean AD carries. We'll get to that point here. Lumao just throws through the binding and hits. Nuclear jukes into it. This will happen again in this game, and it's a free death, free First Blood to, of all people, Imp on a team that wins best when Imp gets ahead. But to answer your question, our Korean AD carries really don't like Caitlyn. They believe that if you ever get ganked in lane and have to flash, the champion can't overextend for turret plates. She falls into that trap she always has where her mid game is only for turret pushing, not actually for team fighting. So if you fall behind in lane and then rotate second because you kind of flashed in lane, can't get a CS lead with her. They feel like she falls apart too much, does the Caitlyn. So Korean AD carries don't believe in the Caitlyn pick at all. To answer your question, Sivir is seen as the kind of safer choice. To pick a lane that still dominates because Lux Sivir have so much burst, but you also have Lux who team fights really well at 2 and 3 items. So the surprise for this matchup is that while Jace has priority on Sion at a start, and then with 1 item, Sion kind of just like Poppy versus Jace, gets the ability to shrug off the damage, Camille really heavily loses to Sion in early trade. So they swapped a champion that split pushes really well in the mid to late game against Sion, instead of the champion that lanes really well in the early game against Sion. So they definitely didn't reinforce their lanes, Damwon Gaming. Apart from the fact that in a longer lane, Camille gives CC, and maybe you can gank the lane as Karthus is a possibility there. To come back to the Alistar versus Sivir interaction, the big takeaway is that Headbutt Pulverize doesn't work against... Spell Shield doesn't work against Headbutt Pulverize. And that's the reason we don't see it. And let's start this. We're going to play a side game. The side game is how many Skittles does Canyon miss on screen against champions? We'll count them. In this one, he missed 1. So keep a counter in chat. We're at 1. He hits the next 3, which are insane. It's insane that he hits the next 4. And the only reason he doesn't get the kill is the Sky of the Week from Yagao. So he's missed 1 so far this game. And as a champion like Karthus, who has a no cooldown Q basically, we've all seen Karthus's get the kill because they just kept the Defile on forever. I'm not going to advocate a drinking game, but if you were ever going to drink to lay waste being missed, this is the one time where you don't come away with alcohol poisoning, is all you need to know. Like, it's pretty insane that they won the skirmish that hard, mostly because of Canyon's accuracy. But this was a cool moment. It was a good return gank coming through from Flawless. So if you watch the pathing, they actually they ping away the danger pings on where Karthus is likely to be because they know there's going to be a scuttle camp. This is a very smart path from Flawless, because if you watch the mini-map, it tells you what he wants to do. Flawless walks over. You know that Karthus is going to try to compete against what he assumes to be a low-health Jarvan for the second scuttle. You know he's going for double scuttle. If you run straight for a gank now, it's very unlikely that Canyon's going to be in counter gank position. So this was good to see. This was a really good move from Flawless, because if you look at how he approached getting dunked on the bot side, he flashed over the wall at 100 health with only 1 potion tick left, and actually cleared his jungle with Smite to get full health, and then went for a more decisive gank than you could assume when he thought the Canyon would be on Scuttle. So he dodges around Vision, he comes in mid. Showmaker just can't expect there to be a Jarvan in the mid lane, and we can check the hitbox. It did seem very generous. Let's check it. I mean, it's thicker than Syndra's model. I mean, this is like, when Ashe's ult hits, you're like, okay, that has a very interesting hitbox. But this is it possible the sphere in this skin is a little bit, if you look at the hue of the E, right? You guys can see, I'm not sure if you can see on yours, I can see here, right? The hue is here. So this part you could understand, because it feels like it's getting hit by this part that's kind of purpley on my screen. I assume you guys can see that too. I assume that's just a kind of visually unfair kind of hitbox thing, because like obviously you assume that if you dodge this part you're fine, but it seems like the hue is also counted as part of the stun, which is a little bit silly if we're going to be real. With the impact radius, I mean, it goes past him, so I feel like impact radius shouldn't be a relevant thing either. I think this is just a good skin to consider purchasing. This one and the Arctic Ops Gragas seem like pretty good skins. But let's focus on the cool thing, which is the pathing. Up, 2, 3, 4. All right. Does miss 5 Qs, so no shots, remember, for any sort of games here. No shots of water, guys, please. We're at 5 so far. Hey, come on, watch yourself, guys. Don't drink too much water. All right, a lot just happened here. As I was mentioning, Sion has really easy priority on Camille. You just go Kleptomancy and try to farm up with Q-Procs and try to break the shields, not take as bad a trade. But then bot lane dies again. And you did kind of feel like this would be the game where bot lane struggles would be too much. We're going to get a replay of the bot lane. Nuclear does get to teleport in, so it's not initially punished. But overall, Nogari's down 15 CS and only Kleptoprocs are keeping him competitive in the lane. And that's after teleporting straight back to lane. Zoom's a bit frustrated because now he can't ult back to lane because he's level 5. You desperately want to use your teleport. In case you want a suggestion as a Sion top lane player, use your teleport aggressively early to get a turret plating or CS lead, and then ult back to lane post 6. Kind of like a Corki wants to force a fight, then package back in. This was a really interesting play because Beryl didn't need to take a headbutt pulverize that aggressively under turret, and actually it's Beryl's mistake that is the reason that Nuclear dies here. Like, I don't criticize Nuclear for that second death. It's actually Beryl's fault because he shouldn't have headbutt pulverized that aggressively. Canyon plays this really smartly. Because he has Alistair walking up and there's a real chance there's someone here, he jukes. It's really well played. Nuclear got queued 2 times in a row, though. I mean, I think the bigger problem is that his support just entered alongside him, right? His support wasn't there, basically. It's very easy to blame Nuclear for the first death and the third death, but I think the second death actually is not his fault. 6. Nope. 5 still. Ugh. Players like this, man. So let's talk about a couple of things. A couple of narrative points that we should talk about. Beryl didn't play a lot to start off. It was Hoyt playing in spring season. Beryl used to be the AD carry of this team. And then role swapped to support later on in the piece. And he was sub-support, right? As Hoyt was the starting support all the way through. So he used to be an AD carry, so probably has some good input. He's a bit older. I think he's the oldest player on the roster other than Flame. The other thing to note, we mentioned it on cast, Canyon is Jug King, and he was the unidentified, very young jungler in 2018 that was always top of the ladder, and people thought it was Peanut, people thought it was Tarzan, but it turned out to be Damwon Gaming sub-jungler who couldn't play because he was underaged, and then Damwon Gaming starting jungler come Kesper Cup. And while I don't think he's reached the next level just yet. He's a player that his pathing is often a little bit off. I think he has taken a lot longer than the solo laners and the bot laners at picking up the macro stuff that Coach Kim Jong-soo is trying to teach them. He is really, really mechanically talented. And it's not something to forget, is he is the Jug King. And finally, it's a game where we could talk about that and it wasn't ironic. Because he was at 5 missed Qs this game, and he hits this one. Love the headbutt pulverize over the wall. Lamau had both his summoners up. So you might say, why did he flash? It's because Lamau had both summoners up. And Canyon hits everything. So another nice moment there. Welcome to the Jug King, says the caster for some reason. So this was a really big mistake from Damwon, as you can tell. So many bonus kills go the way of JDG. They think they can just take down Drake, and this is actually pretty similar to Griffin, where they died and had multiple deaths in the previous game around a Drake against the Pantheon comp. Because the problem here is that it's pinged out that Scion's roaming down, and Showmaker moves forward with nuclear to get kills. Like, they could have fully disengaged after they got the Drake and only lost 1 or 2, but they end up just being pincered by the Scion and getting to just give the kill to whoever they want on this one as well. So this is pretty poor from Damwon, and this is the moment in the game after 3 early deaths to nuclear and the bot lane from JDG being ahead, that you just assume things would fall apart for Damwon Gaming. But, like chat's mentioning, it gets Nuguri ahead. Nuguri, who was down 20 CS in lane, who couldn't walk up for Klepto procs, who has that weak early game laning phase into the Scion, who wins trades and also roams better, gets a lot of gold on this push. Like, he actually gets ahead in CS by 1 wave. You can fast forward through the fight. That one's not too interesting. It does mean that Nuguri gets to come back with Sheen, which means that his Q true damage transfer trades do a bit more damage. LPL jungler is getting really schooled. It does feel like the analogy I made to the support Morgana schooling China like 5 years ago. Like, the Karthus jungles have been able to get huge CS leads in these games from pathing and also from, you know, JDG not invading. Like, you got to invade onto Karthus, but we've seen very little of that, especially in early invades. And Nuguri, if he gets Ravenous Hydra and Triforce, can just split push in the face of Zoom and do the old Trundle versus Maokai thing of ignoring the Scion's base damages and being able to keep pushing. So 4-kill lead to LPL, 1-kill advantage. The Sivir with all the gold, and playing into the win conditions we're discussing, the Sivir is ahead. The team has a very easy to activate teamfight comp that can fight front to back very easily. There's a lot of reason to be confident about JDG's position. Meanwhile, Damwon Gaming need to play a 3-lane comp, and Damwon Gaming are team fighting, right? So you assume that this is all going to go poorly. Now watch that Beryl is spotted on vision. They know his flash is down, and yet he still makes this play happen. It's only a single headbutt pulverize, but the coordination here with Nuguri is super nice to watch. Nuguri over the wall. They instantly blow up your gal. It's a 600 bounty onto hard carry Beryl, and that just means that Flawless is out of position, because Flawless, if you watch how he approaches the fight, he's looking for a smite steal. He ults to the backline as his backline is double pincered on, and then he's just way out of position. They can flash for the fights here. JG just got themselves rushed. They had vision on Beryl's last known position, and they still get targeted by Showmaker from the front, Nuguri from the side, and Beryl over the wall. Like, it's a super good Hex Flash over the wall. Can even leave the kill for Canyon. And the funny thing is that the initial start here, the thing that prompts it is Zoom backing. And they say, okay, we can rush this down. But Zoom has TP. Imp is already walking up there. And yes, JG will be playing second fiddle. But at this point, with Scion frontlining with ult up, with Flawless also creating space, there's a real chance that Sivir, yes, isn't 2-3 item, but Sivir and Yagao have a lot of gold. Not all of it is invested. So there's no Ludens purchased here, which means that Yagao doesn't hit like a truck. But if Sivir and Yagao have just some beefy boys in front of them and get to free hit, these guys are squishy. This was the sort of area where you could see Damwon Gaming doubling down on kind of fighting with a 1-3-1 comp and being caught out for it. JG get in position for it, but Sivir's there late, and that actually ends up being a big problem. Is the moment that this happens, Yagao's dead, there's actually no damage here because Imp's not there. He comes down the river and he ends up grouping around Zoom, but the fight's already over and there's free kills to pick up. So Damwon even though they didn't have the team fight comp, they had the first rotation. They just make the play with a control ward over the wall, and it actually ends up getting them a huge lead. We forgot to count the missed cues. Oh, we can go back and do that. We're at 5 so far, right? When does he start going for champions? Let's find out. That one misses. That's 6. I think it's just 1 there. I'm going to say 6. Getting the Rift Herald here for a comp like this is so big because they can skip over all the vision that was placed here. Like JDG want to make this about them, getting 5 Rift Herald, so getting 5 stacks in the top side. And this map reset here is so cool because if you consider what happens after they get Rift Herald, they go into mid lane, jam down the Rift Herald. Alistair leaves instantly, Camille leaves, Kai'Sa leaves. They're able to defend the top lane turret with 5 turret plates because they know that for all the people on the Rift, Sion is under mid lane turret. Yagao and Flawless are dead, neither of them with teleports. They can spot Sivir and Lux on the minions, so they can actually cut through river, cut through the lane because there's nothing there for them to respect because there's no other bad guys on the map. Meanwhile, walking up into terrain around these turret plates with no river control, only deep control ward spotting and a deep control ward defending, is actually not enough vision for JG to make a map play here. So it's just honestly Damwon Gaming calling JG's bluff. JG just assumed that Damwon Gaming would rush into the mid lane as a 5 and guarantee mid lane turret. Instead, they go top and get the free kill on Imp. So a momentary lapse of judgment from JDG, but a really good call from Damwon. Not their bread and butter. They are not like Kingzone, where you like this team as really fitting the meta because they're smart about how they play out the game and they're talented. Like, the talent from Damwon inflated them to 4th spot in spring. Like, that felt like a high result for a team that never could look relevant against top teams. Famously, they hadn't won a single game against Griffin in 2 years before the first round robin of this year. But they've gotten smarter. And whether it's Flame in the roster, whether it's the coaching staff, they've gotten a lot smarter at how they play out the game. Plus, they still have the mechanics. They haven't gone anywhere. So, really nice teamfight victory here for them. But this is the more... like, I always knew they could pull off teamfights, but plays like this where they get the turret plates on Karthus and Jace, and they also kill Imp and defend the 5-plate turret, leads to big gold swings. Like, this gets Damwon Gaming 1,800 gold ahead with a comp that has a lot of damage in the early game. And now, if they're not face-checking with Flawless and Zoom, if it's just coming from a lot of... if the threat is coming from a lot of different angles, JG have a lot to worry about if they don't have Sivir and Syndra in position to fight. They take a free Rift Herald from it. This is the big fight. So this is them respecting Beryl this time. They're like, okay, we've been flanked by Beryl twice. Let's stop it. Zoom also is picking up a minion wave 2 levels down. No river control. So Jingdong Gaming are like, all right, fool me once, fool me twice. Let's be a lot safer around this Drake. And then they look for the collapse. They try to just blow up Showmaker. They don't hit the EQ. Zoom can still re-engage, right? He's still a big, thick boy. And they know Canyon's flash is down. But it's a good call from Damwon. They just turn on to Sion, who just turned level 9. There's no way for Sivir to do damage and for Syndra to do damage over the wall, especially not lethal damage because of range. And they just get the free kill. So, good kill there. Free kill, free flash, I should say. Yagao doesn't die, but he does fall super low. And then Damwon are really stubborn. They're saying, we want to re-invade on this side of the map without our Camille. Camille's not there, remember this, until Beryl's big day out. Now, this is the play that I think people will never forget, right? Jingdong Gaming tried to do to Damwon what Damwon did to them by focusing on their Sion, because they know Camille's out of position. Pre-ult from Beryl into flash, headbutt, pulverize. Oh, man. Just a thing of beauty. Even in slow motion, it just gets better. It just gets better. Cast Assault back up. If I could eat this, I'd give it a Michelin star. Beautiful. Just beautiful. It doesn't matter that some of the skill shots slightly miss and stuff, right? Like, the moment that happened, Damwon Gaming were just a broken team. And remember that Jingdong didn't need to do this. Here, let's talk about why this all happens. Why is Damwon Gaming walking this way? Because it's always, I think, the focus of a stream like this is to arm you guys for the why of why a big play happened rather than just to admire the big play. The big play happens because Damwon Gaming have pushed the minion wave through mid, and they have 4 turret plates they can start to assault down. If they zone Damwon from walking in this way or walking in that way, they get, 160 gold times probably 3, right? They probably get 3 turret plates pushing through the mid lane with the priority they got after they lost the Drake. It's always the way. If you send all your members to get Drake first, the enemy pushes the wave second and thus gets a chance to attack the turret. That's why we're seeing a defense here. And that's what Nuguri picks up on. If you watch the minimap, he already accepted that, all right, I can't help you guys reinvade the top side with all this hard CC. Let's give it up. But JDG then get very greedy. Ult up, flash up Alistair is who they try to turn on. And they invest everything in it. And that's when Canyon, Showmaker, Nuclear say, wait, that's a lot of people trying to focus on a fight and not on all the free turret plates over here. That is the big mistake in execution here from Damwon Gaming. It's twofold. It's the fact that you're turning on to an Alistair with ult up when there was an easier objective to take. And then, of course, it's clumping, which ends up being the big play. You guys want the caster audio? We can play this one with caster audio. I don't normally play things at 1x speed with caster audio.
Going for a flank. In fact, they still think they can get this fight.
Yeah, might be off to the side. Scatter the weak doesn't land as there's the ultimate.
Flash
in the forehand, pulverized from Barrel. Canyon, the Requiem. And Zoom is going to survive for the moment. Flash out from him is going to get him to safety. But there's the zombie Zion underneath the turret. And GDG are on the wrong side of the map.
Get in there, Alistair!
Yeah, Barrel looking for it one more time. Yagal's going to die. There's the knock-up special delivery. And it's going to be the Jace that picks up the kill. In the meantime, Nuclear saying, I need money, guys.
Holy moly, Barrel just turned an
I didn't want to say holy moly there.
into potentially the match deciding moment. What a re-engage. That was
Into Yagal, DG. And Zoom is going to survive for the moment. Flash out from him. He's going to get him to safety.
So when this happens, right? When I get my turn to talk, you have that hard moment. Because, this is like a fucking epic play, right? And, it well deserves holy shit, it's a holy shit moment. But the problem is that if you say holy shit at that moment, it always has to get clipped out of things. Like we saw, of course, Dracos, who got a very deserved, swear word, but it had to be cut out and more, more viewings. You want Korean fans to watch it and stuff. So even though the moment, even on a pro broadcast, you could absolutely, justify saying holy shit, you gotta hold your horses on that. But, yeah, you're remembered for moments like that. So it's definitely a holy moly. I said holy guacamole too many times this season, so that's why I went for holy moly. Let's also kind of consider this play in terms of when it happens and what it means. 1,700, 1,800 gold lead, let's call it. Infernal Drake just picked up. I want you to see how much JDG lost from making the wrong call. Because let's go over it. 1,800 gold. Right? I'm not counting queues at the moment. Someone else can do that, but it's not that many. Remember, 1,800 gold ahead is Damwon Gaming at that point. Just got an Infernal. And let's assume that if they followed the minion wave, it would have been 1,500 gold ahead because they would have got 2 turret plates here with a JDG if they backed away. So think of the number 1,500 gold lead to Damwon Gaming as things should have been if they picked it up. But the insult upon injury is that they lose it all. Nuclear gets to walk top lane and get a couple of turret plates because he teleported top lane to get turret plates. And then suddenly it's 4,000 gold lead. So this game should have been 2 turret plates to JDG. Super free. Damwon Gaming's already going to walk the long way because they're being shut off by the Scion and all the threat of engage from J4. So it would have been 2 turret plates, back away, very low mid-health turret. Never mind, 14 minutes happens. Instead, the gold goes from a 1,500 to a 4,000. So it's, 2.5 times the gold change from this moment. And also, the amount of, tilt that a moment like that causes, the moment that you die there, that's so much momentum to be behind. You've just been flanked by Alistair 3 times, the 3rd time of which he just 4-man poled you back to China. That's a ultra insane momentum swing that, it's just unbelievably big. There's a comment in chat about Reaper saying this is what other regions miss out on. I think G2 is really good at finding these windows and not over pursuing fights and going for the 2 turret plates in mid. You think of all the games at Rise where they've been able to come back from playing side lanes well. JDG had inside track with minion wave of turret plate hitting for 40 seconds with 5 players. That is the punishment for a team that takes an Infernal Drake without priority. You get in there, you're sad about it, but you push the minion wave out. They can't get back from the Infernal to get to the minion wave. Their bot laner already gave up on it. It's so greedy to force a fight, and it's so free to go get the turret plates. It's so frustrating from this side. Ugh. What a moment, What a moment for Beryl as well. Everyone knows his name after a play like that. Gold lead almost 5,000 gold now if the turret goes down. But the priority there was so clear for the side of JDG, and thus very disappointing to see they made that play. And now, Damwon Gaming are so confident. Even Nuclear has a bounty, right? At this point in the game, all the lead on Imp and Lamau. Yes, it's still 20 CS, but the gold is actually gold advantage to the previously inting Kai'Sa. And Trinity Force is hit before the first real tank item is done. Jarvan only has initiation and is 50 CS behind the enemy jungler. At this point, the amount of momentum swing is so huge. That's why in my wrap-up I said that's the engage that won the game. Because now getting the map to a state where JG can force the fights they want is almost impossible. It's too late for them to address the mistakes when they make that large a mistake. And yeah, Zoom's lane is done. What is he going to do? Basically, he's a gold pinata like turret plates are for Nagari to get Klepto procs, and Nagari has kill pressure on him the moment that he either gets a lot of free time or gets some lifesteal to always win the war of attrition. Sion can't win the war of attrition health bar wise at this point in the game anymore. Control ward line around it is very sound. From the JDG perspective, they should VOD review it and not say, why did we go all in on analysis? They should say, we should have taken the free objective there that would have got us more than a kill's worth of gold. The execution things after that don't matter as much at all. Karthus's cooldown is nice and low. the map control, like Damwon Gaming now own all of the map. We talked about in the draft how it was solo lane 1-3-1 focused versus duo lane focused, and it lived up to that billing. The Damwon Gaming duo lane made a lot of mistakes as a 2v2, and Nuclear died at level 1. But now, the game pace is so high that Sivir doesn't even have Infinity Edge as a counterpoint to how well the top side is doing, whereas the top side one-item completion of Trinity Force, 10-stack Medjais, and the Runic Echo, like double flat pen Karthus is stronger than every champion on the enemy team. The Triforce Camille is able to split push against everyone. Like, it's a smashing level of turn in a game that was actually looking so good. Like between Drakes, the game was lost by JDG. Indeed. How many Qs missed on screen there? Let's check. Oh, no. 1 out of 1. We'll take that one. 362 damage Q. Gets the cooldown reduction on the Presence of Mind as well. 11 Dark Harvest stacks. We got 20 kills in 18 minutes. And that's what we should note, is we looked at the numbers beforehand. Both these teams are around 0.7 champion kills per minute. This one is at the moment 1.15. Damwon Gaming in this game played a different style because JDG allowed them to. Like, this game was a very normal Damwon versus JDG game until the big mistake around the Infernal. But Damwon have a lot of talented players. They have Beryl on a true initiator rather than, say, Tahm Kench. And we had a lot of Tahm Kench Sona games from Damwon. And they're kind of in the mud with JDG, who aren't normally one of these fast teams. And JDG look like a team that's trying to play fast, but are making execution errors along the way. Do you think any other top laner can match Nuguri's mechanics? I think on a good day, there are some that can, but I think on an average level, no. I think Nuguri's laning mechanics are really, really good. I'm talking about LCK. Worldwide, I think the Shy definitely can match him. And now it's kind of a disaster, right? Medjai's 10 stacks done. Soon to be Ravenous Hydra done. Everyone on this side has incremental builds. Even Sion's not that tanky against Camille. Doesn't do anything. Doesn't do anything. And then Sivir is a BF sword into Infinity Edge, sort of doing real damage. Watch the map as this play happens. So Nuguri doesn't know that Syndra is there, but assumes that she might be. And he's just trying to buy time. But if you watch the mini-map, the moment that Syndra shows, the ping onto Baron comes in instantly, and Kai'Sa Karthus is insane Baron damage. And Nuguri, you know, super slippery, right, at this point in the game. That's just a Nuguri moment. He really, really likes to... He always knows how strong he is in the 1v1. Like, I don't think a lot of Camille's... Like, do a lot of Camille's know that at this point, they have solo kill pressure? It should be noted, 2-level lead. 5 points, 5 points. Trinity Force, most of Hydra done. But Sion has 2,000 health to open this up on a Thornmail. And Nuguri is obviously super clear on how strong he is. This was the part where people thought it was BM, but actually he wants to brawl for Klepto procs. You notice he got the 5 gold there. How much gold did he take on the... Let's watch. 5 gold. 90 gold. He got 100 gold from beating up on the corpse. Beautiful. And he took CDR boots to get higher CDR. As was pointed out in the chat there. I haven't seen CDR boots on a Camille either. I guess maybe getting higher CDR numbers just means that he can take trades and potentially dodge away from the Qs from the Scion more reliably. I can hear the commentary on my side, and I sound so crazy when I'm shouting in slow motion. Ward over the wall to make sure the nuclear could get that kill. Beryl even denies the blast plant. Don't need analysis for this stuff, right? This stuff's just dunking. And this sort of gameplay, right? Like, this is not very Korean team-esque. I think Kingzone in their win streaks in spring with Khan on the Camille, you could see it. You know, like that's a time where plays like that did happen. But in full flight, aggressive Korean League of Legends has kind of always been my addiction, but obviously it's been a super rare thing from Korean teams. This Damwon Gaming is so mechanically talented, and they have players that love to take skill checks. There's a really great interview with Noguri that Ashley Kang did, where basically she talked about, don't you wish that your teammates would back you up more? And he basically said, yeah, I wish they capped my lane every time, but I understand that wouldn't be fair, so sometimes I have to play defensively. Which he doesn't mean in like a rude way. Like, he obviously knows, and he compliments Showmaker super heavily in that game, but it shows the kind of player that he is. He's the kind of player that always is looking for the solo kill, and he says that much. You know, he talked about how he watched TF Blade highlight plays, and he dreams of being the 3-man Aurelius ult turn or the huge Rise flank player. Like, that's the kind of players that Damwon Gaming have. And when you're all super talented like that, this is the sort of game you can play when around it you don't make dumb mistakes. And I made a lot of dumb mistakes in spring. But in this streak, we've more often than not seen Damwon make calculated plays, but they make calculated plays Damwon style, which means calculated plays that also involve 1v9 Akalis and Noguri on like the craziest split push, or getting run over in lane and still Vlad ulting to slam everyone. And that's why I think they'll become a team that people will remember for a long time. I truly believe no Korean team in their first international tournament has made an impression like this since SKT in 2013 Worlds. That's how much I rate Damwon Gaming's 3-0, including this final game clutch win. Is that you think back to, say, Coup Tigers in 2015. Well, they played IEM and got slammed there, so that counts against them if you want to count just Worlds. They had a good Worlds, but they weren't quite like this in that one. Whereas 2013 SKT really had a dominant run. I don't think Samsung in 2016 Worlds, yes, they made the final, but it's about the style and substance of young players in their first international tournament that really made me very excited about Damwon Gaming in this series. Like, this was a really impressive debutante ball. I've been watching some like period dramas, and you know how they used to make a really big deal about kind of like a rich family showing off their daughter on her Sweet 16 and stuff like that, the debutante ball kind of thing. Like, to me, Damwon Gaming is showing their stuff and getting new fans and absolutely capturing the eyes of everyone, whatever your allegiance is, in this tournament. And I came away, as someone who has to cast the games, thinking like, right, I just want to watch every Damwon game from here. I want to see Damwon go out, you know, and make it to Worlds in the international stage. And we don't know where they're going, but they play, you know, on Thursday on a 9-match win streak, and they play Kingzone on Saturday, potentially on a 10-match win streak. So even though Nuclear is like obviously kind of the weak link of this team, if they can just find different ways to shield his struggles or his 50-50 CSing from being the problem, Damwon Gaming will win a lot of series. And teams have to find a way to attack topside, because I think there's no real point. Oh, even the redemption is late here. There's no real point putting investments into the bot lane and countering the bot lane, because Damwon have already shown they can't actually win games when Nuclear's ahead. If Nuclear's ahead, Showmaker and Nuggery are behind, they don't win 5v5s. They need to know the power level of their solo laners to make games work. So I think just trying to counter gank topside is the best way against Damwon Gaming. Beryl definitely wins the MVP here, even though Canyon had an outrageous game. What a win. Really emotional win here, you know? I mentioned during the Q&A, but like a moment like this where a young team with no players who ever played internationally before, only Nuclear that played over in EU, and he was the player who was struggling the most, picking up a win like this reminds me of when League of Legends was less about who's the top Korean team, how are they going to do at the international event. Like, before you became cynical and got used to Korean teams winning all the time. And this tournament in general is about that. It's about Korea as a region who's been down for 2 years and being a lot more reflective, finally coming back and winning something. And I think it's very valid for people who aren't LCK fans to watch it and say, it was just Rift Rivals. Because you're right. It's not the cornerstone of your trophy collection by any means. But the fact that Korea, in terms of how they won Rift Rivals, I think that is really important and something for an LCK fan to get excited about. They come in, win Rift Rivals, playing an attractive, aggressive style of League, often outplaying in the early game through aggressive skirmishing the Chinese teams. They're able to do it with players who haven't just represented the LCK for many, many years. Like, if you think about it, the LCK has kind of been which one of Faker or Prey and Gorilla is going to win it this time. And it kind of was that for the teams at Worlds more often than not. Last year, of course, being an exception. But for these teams to come in and represent Korea with mostly new generation talent, and for there being the Reddit thread that confirmed that Korea on average is the youngest average region, it was so important for Korea to win this tournament. Korea had everything to lose here, but also everything to gain, because it was so important to make a statement that teams full of players that didn't debut in 2012, 2013 can actually do things internationally against tough opposition. Like, JD Gaming wasn't great here. The LPL teams were 2 patches behind, but the LCK side, irrespective of what the LPL side was doing, was strong. And seeing a young team like Damwon pick up the win, like, it's not the Griffin 3-0, it's the Damwon who weren't supposed to play in a 3-0 coming through and shining in this big way. Like, that means something. And does it mean the start of the second golden age? Does it mean just a blip into more normalcy at Worlds? We can't know, but it felt special on the day. And Damwon Gaming are really evolving to be a smarter and smarter team, and no one could ever doubt their mechanics behind it. So, yeah. Obviously, this one was a bit more of a love-in and also about the kind of slow-down, super epic headbutt pole players than a lot of analysis, because it very clearly fell apart from JDG's side. We really focused on the one analytical moment, which was specifically JDG having free priority that would have led to 320 gold worth of turret plates, the same as a single kill onto an Alistair, by the way, that they heavily threw and it turned the game. But that was a snowball that JDG saw. They snowballed well with it, and they well deserved their victories. So, really, really cool game. Could go on to be one of the most important games in looking back on Korean League of Legends in 10 years. It also may go on to be a meaningless game. We can't know. But in the moment, it felt really special. So thank you very much for listening to that VOD review. And those are the 3 VOD reviews for today. I'm going to play some ads and come back and answer questions for a bit because it's a bit of a shorter stream today. Only 5 hours 20. Sorry, guys. Just slacking over here. We're going to be back with the LCK tomorrow. That's the way it always goes. But that is the VOD review portion. Understand if you want to close the stream now. I'm going to play some ads and be right back. So thank you very much for watching.